Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to GDSC IIIT Kalyani's YouTube channel. We are here for our proposal writing session this evening. We are glad to have with us Bardhan Mishra, who has been a contributor previously on GSoC. He has also been a contributor in Google Summer of Docs. We will get to talk to him today and get his tips on how to write a great proposal and what makes a good proposal and how to polish your proposal as a whole, right? So that's what we're here for, and we'll get started with welcoming you once again to our stream. So the we are blessed to have your support. We had a great support from your end. We had approximately 2600 applications come in. It's a huge number, and it's not a number which we've seen previously. Could we have the slides up once again so that I'll be very happy to show you our numbers. So as I mentioned, this is the session that you won't be needing to look beyond this, in my opinion, for drafting a proposal. And it's not only necessary to for WOC, but in general, wherever you go in your future endeavors, a proposal and a drafting skill that leads to a good proposal is a skill that you need to keep handy at all times. So this is a skill that will take you a long way in all your endeavors. So it's a important session, not only from the point of view of winter of code, but also from all your future endeavors, right? So this is a session that you might not want to miss. I would like to welcome you formally to the stream. Thanks a lot for joining in. So yeah, we had these numbers come in. I have Ayush with me. He's the uh, machine learning and AI lead at GDSC IIIT Kalyani. He'll be presenting the contributor stats, and we'll get to talk about them, and we'll move on to Harsh then.
So yeah, we
Ayush,
this
all
year
over
for
to you.
thank you. This year for the third edition of our flagship event that you all know now, Winter of Code 3.0. We had a overwhelming support from all the participants. Like a huge number of applications came in. As you can already see on the slides, we had like 2650 applications come in. Out of which 2094 were initially screened off. Then we manually screened off a few applications more, and after the screening, you are all here on this particular stage where you will now draft your proposals with our esteemed speaker, and we'll then have a great session. Can we go on to the next slide, please? So yeah, like I already mentioned the numbers, not only from our country, India, but we had like contributions from three different continents, 14 different countries. 14 different countries is a huge number for us. We have never seen such numbers previously in last 2 years. Seeing all these numbers, it was like we were quite delighted. So this is the demographics of our participants. Now next year we'll try and get a even better number, hopefully. If with your help and contributions, it would be a great event this year as well. So next slide, I guess Nikhil, you will continue with the next slide, so you can take over.
So these numbers coming in, Ayush, they are literally, astounding numbers that have come in. 14 countries, people from countries, which have been contributing successfully to GSoC, particularly India and abroad as well. Countries where open source and their literacy has been, growing over time. They have, come out in numbers. We have received even, 5-10% contributions from countries which we had not seen before. So these are numbers that brought a smile to our face, and this is what WOC has been able to achieve in its past two seasons. So we are very delighted with these numbers. Once again, I'll present to you the demographics of the people who are in the bachelor's degree. They have formed the majority of the applications, and we have even master students and Astonishingly, which Harsh might even be agreeing with me, high school students have also come out in numbers. It's, approximately 0.5% or 1%, around that number. We have high school students applying for winter of code. I mean, that is something which is, which is really a positive sign for this contest, because high school students starting early with their open source journeys, they might go a very very long way and might end up enjoying this to the fullest, right? So, majority of the people chose to apply with the front end developer expertise. We can see front end developers from the majority of the applications. Then we have the back end developers. Then we have the mobile developers. App development being a critical component of WOC since past two sessions. And then we have blockchain developers as well as designers applying for these this time, right? Because design is the phase which is the initial phase, and from there the life cycle starts, right? So good design leads to a good product. As a good beginning is, there was a saying, a work well begun is half done. So a good designer contributes, whole heartedly, and the project then goes on to, fulfill its utility to the fullest. So we have, the demographic for people pursuing a bachelor degree, since they form approximately 90% of our application. So 2025 is the graduation year for most of the students. That means they might be in their second year right now. They just might have begun with their open source journeys as well. So these are promising signs. Even people from 2026 as their graduation year, still in their freshman year, have chosen to apply for winter of code. I mean, kudos to all communities across the country who are doing a great job, spreading open source literacy. And we as well have 2024 forming a good number of applicants, and 2023 and 2022 making up numbers as well. So these are numbers that show promising signs for open source development in the times to come. And in my opinion, the pandemic also helped accelerate this dynamic to a lot greater extent, because we got a majority of our times to spend on open source contributions, and things moved online. So you had more time to network with your mentor, as both of the contributor and mentor would get more time to speak about their open source work, rather than in 9 to 5 culture and all that things. We'll move on to the main agenda of today. We'll not delay it anymore. We know that you are here to listen to him. Bardhan Mishra is, as I said, a contributor and now a mentor as well. We'll call him on the stage to present his talk on how to draft a proposal. Keep in mind, this skill, as I said, is very handy to keep, and it will take you a long way in all your endeavors. So, Harsh, the stage is all yours. Thanks once again. The stage is all yours. Welcome.
Definitely, thank you. So I guess I can try presenting my screen over here. Um, I do hope that my screen would be visible right now. Cool. So, hi everyone and good evening. So, first of all, thanks for joining this session on writing project proposals for open source programs. And I guess it has been my second association with GDSC IIIT Kalyani talking about the same topic, because like last time as well, I talked about this thing, that how you should be crafting your project proposals. And I guess this time we can go into much like more depth into this whole topic and see like how you should be crafting your project proposals, not just for the winter of code that is being brought up by GDSC IIIT Kalyani, but also for any other open source programs. So this would be a quick session. And before getting started up, I guess I can introduce myself. So currently I'm working as an engineer at LocalStack. And as Nikhil might have mentioned, I'm also a mentor at Mojo Global. And moreover, I'm also a Google Summer of Code administrator. So a lot of people might know that Google Summer of Code is an annual open source program that is brought up by Google, where you get to contribute to different open source projects and open source organizations around a lot of different domains. Like we have got mobile application development, web development, cloud and infrastructure, low level programming, and more of that. So before becoming a Google Summer of Code administrator, I did my Google Summer of Code with Metacall back in 2021. And in the same year, I also did my Google Season of Docs at Mojo Global itself. So Metacall is an organization that basically is building out a library that facilitates interlanguage function calls. So just imagine writing a code in Python and maybe calling that in JavaScript or maybe C Sharp. While Mojo Global, on the other hand, is building out an MRV that basically stands for Measurement, Reporting, and Verification Framework that allows different countries and different organizations to track greenhouse gas emissions and basically mitigate them. And apart from all of this, I previously worked at a few companies, some of them being HackerRank, Nethermind, QuantSight, Red Hat, mostly on domains that are around DevOps, cloud, infrastructure, front-end development, and more of that. So if you wish to connect with me, you can just search my name on any of the social media websites, and you might be able to find me there. Otherwise, I have just linked all of my social links at the end of this whole session, so you can just find me through that itself. Cool. So that was all about me, but I would also like to know about all of you. Basically, just to see like who has contributed to open source before and how many of you have actually tried writing a proposal before. So for this purpose, I have brought up a Slido session. This is going to be super quick. And all that you need to do is to go to slido.com and basically enter this code over there. So you can do that by opening a separate browser, by opening a separate tab on your browser, or by just taking out your mobile phone or maybe like navigating to this particular website. And you can just fill up this code over there and you will be a part of the Slido session. So folks, like we are going to use Slido to basically interact with all of you. So we are not just going to use that to ask some questions to you, but we are also going to use that for the Q&A, because I see that some of the questions that you might be asking might not directly reflect on StreamYard, but I'm just taking a look at the whole YouTube live chat that is going on. But you can also use this to post all your questions. So if you're unfamiliar with the process, you can just go to slido.com and you will find this particular section over there. And all that you need to do is to just enter this particular code that I have previously shared. So I can put that on the YouTube live chat for everyone. And you can use that to basically join this whole session. Cool. I guess most of you might have joined the session already. So I can maybe start with some of the questions that I have to basically ask everyone. So one of the first question that I had was, have you contributed to open source before? Okay. I'm not sure if why is this not being reflected. Let me just refresh this out. Yep. So there is this question for all of the people who are participating in this session. So if you have contributed to open source before, you can just say that, yes, you have contributed to open source. If you have not contributed yet, you can just say like, okay, you have not contributed. Maybe if you have joined some open source community and like you have gone through a few issues, but you have not contributed something yet, you can just fill in maybe, because you have a definite experience with getting started to open source. You're just waiting for the right opportunity to make up a few contributions and get started with the whole thing. Cool. I see that there are 60 plus folks. Most of you have not contributed to open source before. So I believe with the help of Winter of Code, you will have quite a credible program to get started with open source overall. And apart from this, there are many good organizations that you can basically participate with. So you will have a lot of incentive so that you can get started with open source. Cool. Apart from this, I have a second question, and it is about, have you written a project proposal before? Again, this project proposal doesn't exactly mean that you must have written a proposal for some open source program like Winter of Code. It can be just about like some random project that you want to develop. Like let us say you want to develop a college project and your head of department has asked for a short proposal where you are basically proposing all of the ideas that you might have or all of the features that you might develop. You can just mention that as a project proposal as well. Okay, so I do see that there are 76% folks who have not written a project proposal before. And there are some people who have written a project proposal before. If you have written a project proposal before, maybe you can put up on the YouTube live chat about the projects that you have written a proposal for, and maybe some insights on how to write such proposals for people like who are just beginning with the whole thing. Otherwise, you can follow up with the session to see like how you can go about drafting a good proposal. And finally, apart from all of this, I have the last question, and it's about have you brainstormed on a project's execution? So even if you have not written a project before, you might have at least thought that, okay, this is a project that I have at my hands. And let me just think on how I can go about dividing this project into multiple smaller parts. How should I go about assigning these parts to each and everyone who is part of my team? Or maybe if you're doing it on an individual basis, you might just think about what is the roadmap that you would like to follow. If you have done something similar, you can just say yes. If you have not done that, maybe you can say no. Or else if you're in the process of doing something similar, you can just say maybe. Cool. Manik is saying that he has written a proposal to enhance his college's LMS. I guess that's pretty great. Devanshu has written a proposal during, okay, he must have contributed during Hacktoberfest. That's pretty awesome as well. Kudos to all of you guys. Awesome. I guess this was pretty much all of the things that I wanted to ask. If you have anything that you have on your mind and like you want to ask some questions directly to me, you can just put all of your Q&As over here. Please don't spam it with messages that don't make any sense. Try to ask some direct questions so that I can possibly help you out with direct answers. Awesome. I guess that was pretty much about audience participation. I will go over the agenda part really quick. And in today's session, we are going to cover three main points. The first one is, how does project proposals matter? Like, why do open source communities or open source programs even bother asking you to write a proposal? Secondly, we are going to discuss about how you should be crafting winning proposals, like proposals that can basically get selected into any open source program, because this is one skill that is going to be like quite fundamental in your engineering career as well, not just in your student career when you have to write proposals for mostly college level projects or open source programs, but even when you get into a company as a full-time software engineer, there would be a lot of instances when you have to basically write something called as RFCs, request for comments. And this is a quite a comprehensive document that talks about different ideas that you want to apply to execute that project, or different things that you want to brainstorm upon, and more of that. Finally, we are going to discuss about how you should be succeeding with your proposals, because a lot of people have quite a good idea about what they should be doing in the project. They might have a good sense of what they should be writing in the proposal, but at the end of everything, they happen to get rejected for a lot of myriad reasons. And as an admin and mentor in various open source communities for quite some time, I do see some of the things that people simply fall into or people simply don't care about. And these are the things that you can possibly fix out while you are preparing for something similar so that you can put up really successful proposals. And finally, we are going to have the Q&A. So please put up all of the questions that you have on the Q&A section of the Slido, or you can maybe put that up on the YouTube live chat. And I can definitely pick that up once I get over with this session. Cool. So let's first talk about the first agenda itself, or about why do proposals exactly matter, or why you should be even bothering about writing project proposals. So perhaps we can take the example of Google Summer of Code, because it happens to be one of the most popular open source programs out there. So Google Summer of Code started out as a way for Google to sponsor open source communities, but Google also saw the whole potential of making these communities select some students or people like who are still doing their studies to get started with open source communities, because in that manner they could have made these open source communities more sustainable. Now, some of these open source communities are pretty old and they're always looking for more and more new contributors. And most of these contributors, not right now, but back then, they mostly comprised of like professional software developers. Like these were people who were not getting paid to exactly contribute to some open source software. They were just volunteers who simply said like, okay, let's get together, let's start building this thing out, and let's see how this whole thing is going up. Now, Google definitely wanted more diverse participation in these projects. And this is how this whole notion of Google Summer of Code came out to be. And their first focus was upon students, because students are the ones who are still in their learning phase. They have not yet got any professional exposure. And these are the ones who can bring up some fresh ideas and which they can possibly execute upon during a given period of time. So Google Summer of Code started up, and right now Google faced a lot of crunch about what the selection process should look like, because Google was traditionally conducting interviews. It was conducting a very comprehensive hiring process to select its own interns. But GSoC was completely different. It was an open source program. And in this case, the hiring process was pretty decentralized. Every organization has their own way of selecting the given candidate. So they wanted a singular manner in which a candidate can be selected by an organization. And perhaps they came up with this idea that let's allow the candidates to write a proposal for themselves, And in this proposal, they are going to highlight a lot of different things, like what their background is, how they should be executing the project, what is the timeline for the given project, and what makes them think that they are the right candidate for the project. And this is how this whole idea of proposal simply came out to be. If you take a further look at other open source programs, like let us say outreach internships or Google Season of Docs or MLH Fellowship or Season of Bitcoin, all of them fall, sorry, not Season of Bitcoin, it's Summer of Bitcoin. All of them nearly follow the same process. Some of them might ask you to write a fully fledged proposal, which contains each and every detailed part about how you should be executing the project. Some of them might just ask you to write a few direct essays, like what makes them think that they are the right candidate and they are a qualified personnel to be part of this program, or what are some of the recent things that they have been working on. But at the end of the day, they just want to understand that you are the best fit for this given project. And if you are given the right resources, in this case, if you're given the right stipend, which basically acts as a compensation for you, if you're given the right mentorship, you would be able to successfully pull off this project. So at the end of the day, proposals allow different communities, different organizations to clearly define the goals, scope, and the potential impact of a project. And apart from this, it also ensures that all of the stakeholders in this project, because if I'm putting out a project proposal, I'm not a single stakeholder in this whole case. Alongside me, there are people like people who will be directly mentoring you, people who are the like administrator of the particular organization, people who are maybe in the management board that are looking forward to the success of this project. All of them are stakeholders for this given project, and all of them needs to be on the same page. So you cannot just write a proposal that satisfies some particular need. You need to make sure that all of the stakeholders are satisfied with the details of your project, with the details of the development plan, and they agree that this is the best way that we should be moving forward with developing this project. Apart from this, your proposal also serves a purpose to the organization because it allows us to do some effective resource allocation. I can take an example from my own experience. So last year, I became a Google Summer of Code administrator. And one of the things that we needed at the start was some cloud credits that will allow us to deploy our projects upon different cloud resources. And we did not have a way to do this. So I even remember that back when I was mentoring an outreach candidate back in 2021 or so, I had to personally create my own AWS like resources on my own account that was incurring a lot of cost for me to basically give the candidate a way to test out the different things that they are doing. And it was not at all sustainable for me. I got a huge bill that I had to basically satisfy with the AWS. So in this case, we needed a definite resource allocation. And since I knew that within the GSoC project that we would be doing, we would need some cloud resources. It allowed me to allocate some extra time, some extra budget to those kind of things. We applied to a grant program through Azure, and we got a lot of cloud credits for that. And this is how we are sustaining the whole community. So your proposal should not just serve the purpose to showcase you as a best candidate for the project. It should also serve a way for us to decide on what are the things that you need to basically work on that project and basically get successful, so that we can provide some additional inputs or additional support, whatever you need to work upon that project. And finally, proposals in a longer context, they are used to build consensus among this entire community. Most of the times, community might be completely divided upon about how a project should be executed or about how a project should be worked upon. There might be different ideas coming in, different work streams, different expertise that flowing in. And if you're writing a proposal, you should not be just doing this on an individual basis. You should try to encompass all of the opinions, all of the feedback coming from the rest of the community, and try to see on how you can build a common ground between different community members and different stakeholders. I guess that's the best purpose of a proposal, because a proposal is not a way for you to showcase your candidature to a given organization or a project. It is a way for you to showcase the best solution that is necessary to complete the project in a given time period. So that's one of the reasons, like that's one of the things why we say that proposals matter a lot in the long run. So what's the purpose in open source programs? I guess I talked in length about the proposals that might serve in a community or an organization or a company's context. Sometimes these companies might be working in open, or sometimes they might be just working in private mode. But in different open source programs, proposals also allow applicants to have a clear understanding of the project. I have seen a lot of candidates in my own experience who just happen to go to different organization page whenever an open source program is announced. They happen to see a project idea over there, and all that is basically like all the things that they have mentioned upon their proposal is straight away ripped from whatever is mentioned on the organization page. So they don't have any clear understanding of the project. They don't understand what the scope is. They don't understand what the deliverables are. All that they have done is to just copy and paste a given block of text that was on the organization page onto their proposal. And they expect that we are going to review it and we are going to provide them feedback on top of that. That never happens out. So proposals serve this purpose to ensure that the applicants have a clear understanding of the project. They understand all the nits and grits of the project. They understand the technical depths about what we are trying to solve. And we expect them to come to us, ask us the right questions like, let us say I have given a very vague problem statement that is in form of a project idea. So I can expect an applicant to come up to me and say like, hey, Harsh, can you just tell me like, what technologies do we want to use with this? Are we going to use JavaScript for development, or are we just going to stick with maybe Python or C++? So in this way, when a candidate is asking me the question, I can basically like go in my own mind map and I can try to give them suggestions on how they can try to improve their proposal. But it will also help the candidate to improve their own understanding of how the project should look like. And on top of this, it also allows the candidate to showcase their communication and their soft skills. Because open source is not just a very straight one-way road. It's also a way like where you have to talk with multiple stakeholders, multiple different people in the community, and make sure that you reach at a common ground where the entire community is satisfied with whatever work you're proposing. So in order to do that, you need to have some good communication skill, and you need to showcase that ability in a very critical manner. So creating a proposal for any such open source program is going to be like super helpful for you. Thirdly, it allows it basically gives you an opportunity to coordinate with the other community members about a given project. So maybe you might have not talked with any other community member during the whole application phase, but once you start writing a proposal and once you mention like, hey, I'm writing a project proposal for this given project idea. If someone has any thoughts about this project, maybe they can reach out to me and maybe I can help them out. Sorry, maybe I can also work upon some of their ideas or some of their feedback to further improve the proposal. And you will be surprised to notice that a lot of people would be interested to provide you suggestions and provide you feedback on how you want to improve this whole project idea. So in this way, you will get to know different community members, and you will get to work upon some common ideas, some common ground to see on how you can further improve the proposal and how you can further start working on that project. And finally, I guess one of the most important parts is that with the help of a proposal, you can already identify some potential issues or challenges that might arise with the whole project. So, like personally, in my case, while I was working upon my project, I ran into a lot of technical difficulties that simply made this whole project look infeasible. And my own organization admin was pretty skeptical about giving this whole project a try because they had a lot of different projects on the table and they wanted to select those projects that are exactly going to succeed. But still, since I was working on the proposal and since I had a definite idea about the potential issues or challenges I might encounter, I already talked with my mentor and it gave me a lot of good ideas about how I should be basically circumventing all of these difficulties. So in the case of writing a very good proposal, you will already encounter these issues that you might want to encounter early on instead of just waiting for your selection to happen. Because once the selection happens and once you find that there are some potential blockers or some potential things that is not exactly going to work out, it is going to leave a very bad impression upon you and upon your whole project. And I've seen a lot of people who basically fail in the first phase itself simply because your project is not able to progress further, because at the end of the day they have not scoped out the tasks really well and they have a very vague understanding of the whole project idea. So what is a recipe for good proposals? And I guess that forms the core part of this entire session. So good proposals are written from a specific point of view where you understand what the project is, you understand what the project is exactly trying to achieve, and you understand about what is the benefit to the community from this particular project idea. So until and unless you are a part of a community for a given period of time, all of these things might not be that clear to you. And this is one of the things that a lot of people face difficulties with. Like if I take an example, I'm a part of Winter of Code as a project mentor right now, and I'm like mentoring on behalf of Mocha Global's organization. So in this case, a lot of people are getting introduced to Mocha Global for the very first time, and it is pretty legitimate because WOC is a pretty beginner-friendly program. But what is happening right here is that a lot of people don't understand the project, they don't understand the technologies, and they don't understand how this whole thing is playing out. And in this case, whatever they're trying to propose is pretty vague and it is pretty naive at many times. So this is pretty legitimate because we are here to support like contributors in all of these endeavors. But what happens when you go and apply to some bigger open source programs like maybe Google Summer of Code or maybe Outreachy? Over there, you will have like 2 to 3 weeks of time for you to understand about what an organization is doing, about what is the particular purpose of a project and how you should be executing upon it. And this is a very short period of time to understand the entire scope of the work that you are trying to commit to. So always try to introduce yourself early to the community. Maybe you can do that once the orgs are announced, or you can do that maybe even orgs are not announced yet, but you already know that these orgs are going to participate, because it will give you a head start upon like the whole thing. It will allow you to see what are the different things you want to work upon, what are the different projects you'd like to commit to, who are the different community members you can possibly try to reach out, and all of the other things. So once you have a definite understanding of all of these things, now you can start writing a good proposal. So a good proposal should start with your contact information, with all of the details that you think is quite presentable. So it might include your name, your email address. In some cases, you might also include the time zone that you are living in and your preferred period of time where you exactly want to work at. So there are some people who might say that, okay, I have my college during the daytime, so I might just work in the evening or the night. Some people might have their vacations going on, so they might want to just work from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and rest of the time they just want to take out time for their family or for their personal stuff. So you can mention that. You can also mention your website, any of your social media links like maybe LinkedIn, maybe Twitter, maybe GitHub. And finally, you can also mention like what are the different technologies you're familiar with and what are the different things you want to work upon. A good contact information can already set the context of your candidature and try to showcase that you have the right skills and you have the right insights of getting a stab on working on this project. The second point is about including a title with a synopsis to convince the reviewer to read further. So a lot of times, like in more popular organizations, reviewers get a lot of proposals to review and to read. And sometimes we might just skip upon a proposal because it has started off with a very bland note. Like they have just mentioned, like, okay, I will be working on this. This is my background information and this is my synopsis. And if I'm not very convinced further that this project is really going good, I can just simply drop reading that proposal and I can move to something that suits better to me. So always make sure that whatever proposal you're writing, try to give it an interesting and a catchy title, and try to add a synopsis. It can be like a 2 or 3 lines description of the entire project idea, so that you can convince the reviewer that your proposal has got some value and you can deliver a lot of value if you happen to get selected with this particular proposal. Third, try to make a case for benefits to the organization, and it can include a separate section that might just talk about the different benefits that an organization will get out of your project. Let us say you're working upon a front-end project, and this front-end project will be adding a lot of new features, a lot of new access. It will be fixing a lot of accessibility issues, and it will try to make your whole application more performant. So once you highlight all of these benefits that an organization might get, try to formulate these in better words and try to maybe put up some numbers or put up some metrics that once I complete my project, there will be a like the whole application will get performant on these numbers, or maybe I will be adding these many new features, or maybe the community will be benefiting in these many ways. So this will allow not just the organization admin and the mentor to see the value behind your project, it will also allow the other community members who might get a chance to review your proposal to actually advocate that, yes, your project looks really good and you should be given a chance to basically work upon this project for the next few months. So all of these things will exactly provide a lot of value to your project idea and to your project proposal. And you can also optionally attach an abstract. So in many cases, abstract can be just swapped with synopsis, or like sometimes they are just interchangeable terms. So you can choose whatever you want to go with. But sometimes it is always good to have like a 1 paragraph or maybe a 2 paragraph abstract. A lot of researchers usually do like a 1 paragraph abstract, but you can pick up whatever you want to prefer. The last two sections are perhaps the most important parts of a proposal, because now you have convinced that a reviewer should be reading your proposal and they should be taking a stab about what your project should look like. But now you should actually like value their time and their efforts to read through your entire proposal by giving them a detailed work structure about what you should be actually doing. So this is not the place where you should basically copy and paste the entire project description of whatever you saw on the project piece. This is where you should actually flesh out the project idea and try to understand about what are the different features you want to commit to. Like let us say there might be some project about developing a web application. So you might have to implement everything from scratch. So this is a time for you to actually apply your system design skills and apply your architectural skills to talk about how you should be going about implementing all of these different components, what will be the different work streams on which you will be working out, and how you plan to execute them out. So this is a section where you can actually start putting up some architecture diagrams, some UML diagrams. If you're someone who's going to work upon a front-end project, maybe sketching out like a Figma or maybe a Canva or something similar, and putting out on the proposal itself would be really useful. Because at the end of the day, your project description or basically the entire work breakdown structure will give a detailed instruction to the project reviewer to help them understand about how you should be completing a project and what are the different components you want to work upon. This section will also be linked to a timeline, and this timeline will consist of maybe a table or something similar, where you can basically mention that what you're gonna do in each and every week of this entire project. So you can just say like, okay, in week one, I will be setting up the repositories, I will be setting up the CI/CD pipelines, I will be setting up the whole IDE and the linters and everything that is necessary for me to get started with the project. In the second week, I'm going to start with the API schema, trying to implement all the endpoints, trying to figure out how to implement the databases and all of those things. So this is exactly how a work breakdown structure can help you out, because it will detail all of the things that you're exactly going to work upon. And it will also detail a timeline where you will be exactly committing to a project, to a particular work stream, and how you should be tackling each and everything in each and every specific weeks. And finally, try to have some additional background information, like try to help the reviewer understand about why you are the right person to work upon this project. You can also link out some like related work to this proposed project, because in a lot of cases, many organizations might ask you to develop a POC for your project. A POC basically stands for a proof of concept. And it can be like a small project, which you can complete like maybe in a day or two. And this POC can exactly showcase that yes, I have the right skills to complete this project, and I have the right idea about how I should be going about implementing the technology for this. And this can give a very solid background to your entire project proposal, because the reviewer is convinced that not only do you understand this entire work that you are going to do, you also have developed some technical understanding about how you should be exactly committing to that. So all of these things can specifically build out a very good recipe for building out a good proposal. If you want to have a more detailed read about this, there is this excellent guide that Google makes us available by Google Summer of Code Guides. So you can go to the contributor guide, and there is a specific section on writing a proposal. And I would definitely suggest to all of you to basically read through this whole section. In fact, I would suggest you to like read through this whole guide to actually see about like how you should be going about getting a stab at a program like GSoC. Again, all of the advice that is being mentioned here is specific to GSoC, but some of the advice that I have seen over here is pretty generic to every other open source program. And it is written in a very casual and the fun way. So you might have a lot of like laughs while reading through the whole thing. So I can maybe like link this out in the private chat of StreamYard. Maybe someone like who is moderating all of this can just link it back to the Google Meet chat, sorry, the YouTube chat, and you can just go and find this entire contributor guide over there. Apart from this, there is also one of the organizations that we GSoC contributors set up back in 2021, and it's called the Google Summer of Code Archive. So it's an unofficial organization that basically stores like some proposals that we have written in the past while applying to Google Summer of Code. And most of these comprise of like successful proposals. So you might have a definite chance of looking at the proposals that actually got selected and people actually got to work upon them. So you can just go to the specific year. I don't think there is like a folder for 2022, I'm afraid, but you can use some of the proposals that are already mentioned here as a baseline to start checking out on how you should be writing a good proposal at the end of the day. So like, let us say you want to work with Apache, and this is not just specific to a given organization. You can like use proposals that are written for a different organization as a baseline to get started with that. Because at the end of the day, all that you need is some given ideas about getting started up. Do not try to actually plagiarize a given proposal or copy pasting different things that might be simply taken out of context at all. We as mentors and org admins, like we are very like sentimental about it, because if we happen to find that some portions of the proposal have been plagiarized, we might like just contact GSoC, and GSoC might take stringent actions on top of that. So make sure that you're candid about all of these things, and whatever you're writing out, it's specific to the given project, to the given organization, and to the given idea. So like this is one of the project proposals that was written by Apurv. Um, so Apurv happened to be like one of my co-interns at HackerRank. So he applied at Apache Software Foundation. And as you can see, he started out with personal details. Then he started out with an overview about the different things that he actually wants to implement. In some given cases, this overview might also be a part of synopsis, or it might also be part of abstract. And then once it is complete, he just directly jumped into the implementation. So how he should be implementing different things over here, some architecture diagrams, some UML diagrams, as you can mention over here, and how you are going to complete some of these sections that are already mentioned here. Like maybe your project idea has a given scope for implementing some caching mechanism on CI providers. So you should not just say like, hey, I would be doing this particular project. I have these tools at my behest and I would be just using them out. You should go further deep down into it and maybe provide some code samples or maybe provide some snippets that exactly showcases about how you should be going about completing this particular task. And once you have outlined all of the different things that you would be doing, you can start working upon a timeline. This timeline, like mostly I suggest to write this out in a weekly basis, but you can also do this on a bi-weekly basis or something similar. But weekly basis is something that is more preferred because you can exactly tell that in this week, I'm going to complete these many things. And it will give you a very clear idea about how your project is progressing and whether do you need further scoping for a few given tasks, because once you're developing the project, some things might just fall out of the context. Some things might just take too long to develop, or some things might just take a lot of time to work upon, or some things that might just take a lot of brainstorming. So you can mention everything in this whole timeline. And finally, you can mention some background work. What skills do you have? What are the different work experiences you have, like in your profile? And what is your involvement with the given community? And what are the different commitments you might have? Now, there might be some organizations like in my experience, I remember Circuitverse, GFOS. Some of these organizations might give you their own project template. Their own proposal template. And in that proposal template, they might be asking you a few direct questions like, have you applied to GSoC before? Are you applying to another GSoC organization? What sort of commitments do you have? Are you going to work for like 40 hours per week in a full-time mode? So you can just answer all of those questions in a complete honesty, and you can just mention all of the different things that you might be doing apart from your GSoC project, or maybe any other open source project that you might be committing to in any other open source program. Now, as I mentioned before, in case of other open source programs like Outreachy or MLH Fellowship, or maybe Google Season of Docs, things might look a bit different because most of these programs are a bit decentralized. Like in case of Outreachy, you don't need to write a proposal. You just need to answer a few essay questions, and you might need to fill up a timeline. And in our case, we give the timeline to the candidates, but sometimes the candidates might come up with their own timelines that is specifically unique to them and to the given commitments that they might have. In case of Google Season of Docs, if an organization is asking you to write a proposal, you can take a similar base as a GSoC itself, and you can start writing a proposal for the given use case. Or else some organizations might want to conduct an interview, or they might want to give you a technical assignment so that they can basically adjudge that you are the right candidate for the project. In case of MLH Fellowship, it is completely 3 essay-based questions that you need to write, along with another optional one. So you can use the same strategies to write out a project proposal in that case as well. And you can mention things about like your past projects, your work experience, your profile, and the different technical expertise that you might have. And all of this will basically contribute to a pretty successful project proposal at the end of the day. So now that we have talked about different strategies for writing a project proposal, there is this one interesting section about how to identify smells in your proposal, because these proposal smells are quite common, and you can uniquely identify them by just going through your proposal, and you might just think like, okay, something is amiss, like something is pretty much going wrong, and I'm not able to understand if a reviewer might like trust this project to begin with. So there are a lot of ways to identify smells or identify dependencies in your entire project proposal. The very first one is that if your proposal is not meeting an outline or a proposed plan at all. Now, in a lot of cases where I have reviewed project proposals, many a times the project proposal is just 3 pages long. The 2 pages at the start is just the title for the project, the contact information, and the background information for the candidate. And the third page is just like a 2 paragraphs worth of project description, 1 paragraph worth of the timeline, and finally 1 paragraph that basically outlines about why the candidate is a right fit for the entire project. And trust me, no matter how skilled of a programmer you are, If you're just proposing like a similar proposal to any open source community or any open source organization, you are not going to be selected for any of that. So whenever you're writing a proposal, you need to have a very good proposed plan. And this proposed plan should not be short, or it should not be like something that you're explaining in a very brief. It should be comprehensive, and it should provide a good and an abstract view of your entire project at the end of the day. If it is failing to do that, the community members or maybe the mentors or the org admins, they might want to take a look at your similar work. Like they might want to take a look at how many contributions you have made to a given community, and they might want to adjust that, like whether the project description that you have provided actually matches with your given expertise or not. Secondly, your proposal should not be just relying upon too much naysay. Like they say, like, okay, I will be doing this, but you are not exactly explaining about how you should be doing this exact thing. So whatever you're mentioning on your proposal, make sure that it is grounded in reality. Don't just pick up some lofty thing that you simply don't understand or you simply don't comprehend yet, and just commit to that. So some people, like especially during open source programs, I have seen is that they try to pick up on hard projects that are working in a completely different technology or a completely different stack, and they just say like, okay, I'm going to work upon this, and I have this much commitment, I have these many ideas that I want to work upon. But again, they don't have any skills in that given technology or that given stack, and like I'm pretty apprehensive like whether they will be able to complete that project or not. So your project should be grounded in reality. It should have some real comprehensive details about the things that you have exactly worked upon, and it should not betray the idea that you will be successful in completing a project. So whatever you do, make sure that you showcase yourself as a capable and a successful candidate who knows the technology behind a project, who knows how a project should exactly play out. And it should have all the details that can basically convince a reviewer or convince a mentor that you have the right skills to basically complete this entire project. Finally, make sure that your proposal is not going beyond the scope of what the organization is wishing to commit. And this was one of the things that I basically like fell myself into. Like back in 2020, when I was applying to GSoC for the very first time, I was putting out project proposals that simply went beyond the scope of what the organization was looking to work upon. And even though I did not formally put up my proposal for any of the organizations, I received a lot of negative feedback about what are the things I want to improve on. So make sure that before you're writing a proposal, and if you have any new ideas or any new things that you want to work upon, discuss first with the mentor or with the organization admin and try to make sure that it doesn't go beyond the scope of what the organization is currently looking to work upon. Because if it is going beyond the scope, the organization will be surely convinced that you might not be able to complete the project in the first instance, and you might not be able to complete the things that you have proposed at last. So maybe just try to undervalue your entire project, like try to underestimate the timeline that your work will be going for, and try to over deliver on the work that you're trying to do. I guess that would leave a lasting and a good impression upon your mentors and the org admins, and it will showcase your proposal and your project to be quite a successful one. And finally, don't let your proposal give the impression that you don't know the project yet. Give some definite pointers, give some definite ideas, discuss about the things that you have taught with the mentors or with the community members already, because in that way you can showcase that you are committed to the project and you definitely know what your entire idea is all about. And this would allow the org admins and the mentors to have a definite judge of the entire project idea. So if you want to mitigate these proposal smells, there are a few things that I can possibly suggest to you for the end of the session. First one is try to get some early reviews on your proposal by the mentors or the community members. So a lot of people try to wait for the end of this whole application period before they actually get some feedback. Or many of the people try to put up some last minute applications. Don't try to do that. Try to make sure that before, like maybe 10 to 15 days before the whole application period gets over, you already have your proposal ready, and try to get some early feedback by the mentors in order to understand about what you should be improving upon. If the mentors are super busy, I guess that's pretty much a case in a lot of instances. You can try asking the other community members to review your proposal if they're not applying for a similar open source program. And maybe you can get their feedback and maybe you can try improving on that so that your proposal should look good further to the entire community. Second, try to join some community calls so that you can discuss your project ideas early on, and you can also start proposing your plans. You don't need to put out the proposal entirely in public in front of all the community members, because sometimes you might be apprehensive that some of the other community members might be applying to a similar organization or they might be applying to a similar project as yours. So in this case, try to put up some ideas, try to propose your plans, put it out in the public so that you can get some feedback. But maybe once you have the feedback from them, start working on them in privately. And you can talk with the mentors, you can talk with the org admin so that you can further improve on that. And in this way, you will have a solid backing of different ideas and different work streams that you exactly want to commit to. Third, try to work with the community so that you can identify all the potential blockers. I already mentioned this whole idea of mitigating these potential blockers that might just block your project indefinitely. Once you happen to find out any potential blocker, like something is pretty much amiss, or there is a new module that you need to implement before starting to work on that project, make sure that you discuss this with the community itself so that you can mitigate them early on, and you will have a definite say on how you should be getting started with the project. I can say one thing from my own experience. Like, I had one of my own GSoC mentees who was working upon a project that was called as Splint UI. So that this project was completely using Vue 2, and we wanted to upgrade to Vue 3 for a lot of time, but we were simply procrastinating upon that. And one of the other GSoC mentees who was being mentored by another like org admin from my organization, so he basically came up to me with this question that should I start working on this project in Vue 2 or should we try to migrate to Vue 3? And I had pretty strong opinion about migrating to Vue 3. So before he even got selected, he started working upon this whole smaller project of migrating the entire project from Vue 2 to Vue 3. And this basically got him a head start because now he had a definite base where he had mitigated the technical blockers. And now he was ready to just get started with the project and start putting out the necessary contributions to make the project a successful one. Fourthly, try to scope your timeline and work according to the technical difficulty and your expertise. You should not try to achieve everything in a few weeks itself, because some people try to see like, whatever project I'm trying to choose, I should just complete this in maybe half of a time or maybe in 3/4 of a time so that I can spend the rest of the time in a peace mode. Don't try to do that, because if the mentors definitely see that your project is going to take less time compared to what you have initially proposed, they might just think like your project is too boring to work upon, or they might also think that you are quite technically overconfident about completing about working upon this project. So scope your timeline according to the given like program's time scope itself, and make sure that your expertise actually complements the kind of things that you want to work upon in each and every phase or in each and every week. And finally, assume everything in good faith. So don't take any feedback critically upon your own self. Don't try to think that if a mentor or if any other community member is trying to give you feedback, it is critical upon your own self and upon your own skills. Try to see it from a proposal perspective and try to take everything in a good faith so that you can be sure that whatever feedback you're getting, you can use that to further improve your proposal and further improve your own understanding about the entire project, so that you can convince the rest of the community that whatever you're trying to do, it's for the best of for all of them. And I guess once you happen to work upon these things, you can mitigate all of the proposal smells, and you will have a really solid proposal that you can use to apply to any given open source organization or any given open source program, not just Winter of Code, not just Google Summer of Code, but also any other thing that you might want to work upon. I guess that was pretty much the end of it. I guess I went over time by quite a few minutes. But if you want to find me on any social platform, you can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter. And you can use these platforms to directly message me or ask any of the questions or doubts that you might have. Apart from this, you can find my website on harshkasper.com, and you can find all of my public open source contributions on my GitHub. And I guess that was pretty much all of the things that I wanted to talk about. So thanks a lot for everyone who has been a part of this session. And yeah, I guess the Q&A is open right now. So if you've got any questions, you can just use Slido to put all of these questions out. Otherwise, you can just put all of the questions on the YouTube live chat, and I can just take them up on a priority basis. So thank you, everyone. Cool. So I do see a few questions here. So one of the questions came up on the private chat. It's about what would be the average acceptance rate of the proposals. So I guess this is something that the WOC organizers can try to answer. So Nikhil, would you like to shed some information on that?
Sorry, Harsh, could you come again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was mentioning, like, can you maybe share some information about what would be the average acceptance rate for the proposals?
Right. So what we do is we just forward those proposals to the mentors after doing an initial check. What the initial check
Mhm.
entails is uh, that you don't submit any PDF that is a proposal, right? We don't really screen any proposals. Okay, just to mention it right now, we don't at all screen any proposals before sending them to the mentors. Just filtering out the spam PDFs, right? So that the mentors don't waste their times over some PDF that is not actually a proposal, right? That wouldn't be correct. Yeah.
Awesome. So come on, folks, you can put out all of the questions on the Slido itself. If you have not joined that yet, you can just go to slido.com and you can enter this code over there. And I guess it would be easy to get started with the whole thing. Cool. I have shared the links on the YouTube chat. So maybe one of the moderators can put them up on Discord as well, and you can use that to just get started with the whole thing. So how to find
We'll
the
do
right
that.
repository? I have a decent knowledge of MERN, but I get confused when selecting the project to contribute. So one of the things that I wanted to mention for any given open source program is that the technology stacks are not singular. Like you might have heard about MERN or MEAN or MEVN or something similar like that. Trust me, most of the projects are not exactly working like that. Like you will hardly find any popular open source project that has a MERN stack like at its behest. So don't try to just stick to one technology. Try to be a polyglot. Try to be proficient in multiple different tools, technologies, frameworks, and you must always have a hacker mindset. Like just go about hacking around different technologies, different frameworks, and see how things can basically work out. Now, coming on to finding different projects. If you're a part of Winter of Code, I guess Winter of Code has already selected a few like proposals. Sorry, a few organizations here and there. But if you want to find out some wider communities that might not be a part of any open source program, you can go to something called as trending repositories. So you can just go to github.com explore, and you will find that there is this section on trending repositories today. So you can just happen to open that, and it will contain a list of the projects that are trending on GitHub right now. You can also try to filter them out with specific languages. Like I can say that I want to go with Python as a programming language. And you can definitely see some of the projects that are in Python itself that you might want to work upon. Now, some of these projects might be just too generic, like just collecting a few things here and there. Like, for example, summer 2023 internships. Even if you're contributing something to it, that won't count as an open source contribution. But some of the projects, like personally, there is this project called as JAX. And I guess a few of my colleagues in my past company were working on this. It's a pretty great project to start contributing to, and you might see that there is a huge community around JAX itself. So it's a great project. You can use that to get started. And in this way, you can try finding more and more open source communities and open source projects that you would exactly like to contribute to. At the end of the day, there is no specific roadmap for picking up a project. You might have to go through a lot of information to pick up those projects that you would exactly like to contribute to. Some communities are pretty competitive because there are a lot of contributors coming from all across the globe. Some of the communities are not competitive at all because they have just set their foot in the open source world, and they're looking for the first good contributors who can take up a few issues, contribute something, and maybe then they can start shaping them into better contributors in the future. So it is all upon you to like find out the projects, but there are some good means for you to do that. Uh, Google Explorer happens to be one of these means. I hope it makes sense. I need some help to start my open source contribution. I don't know where to start, how to start. If you want to start with open source contribution, maybe first start with the whole software development itself. I gave a different session on software development and open source, I guess, back at NIT Silchar. But a lot of people are basically falling into this whole like philosophy that open source is for everyone and anyone can get started with that. It is pretty true. It is pretty legitimate. But one thing that you will see is that open source is heavily grounded into technology and into this whole programming libraries, tools, frameworks, and all of that. So you need to have a definite technical knowledge in order to get started. And if you're someone who is looking to make more and more code-based contributions, you need to understand how software development works. So before getting started with open source or before getting started with anything else, first get started with software development. Maybe try to learn a given programming language. Maybe try to hack around a few personal projects. After that, try to learn some version control. Try to see like how Git works, how GitHub works. And once you happen to complete all of that, open source will simply make a lot more sense to you. And you can just go through that in an entire breeze. So don't worry too much. Start with the baby steps. And there is no specific roadmap that can exactly like get everyone started with open source or anything like that. So just take baby steps, start learning the smaller things. And then you will obviously see that you are climbing up the ladder and you're getting to understand how the bigger projects actually look like. So since Mojo Global also participates in GSoCs, would meaningful contribution to the orgs project in WOC also strengthen my GSoC application to Mojo? Pretty much evident, of course. So whatever contributions you're making to Mojo Global, it can be right now, it can be 1 year later, it can be 1 year back. If you're just making some meaningful contributions, you can always put that upon your proposal, and we are going to use that as a way to judge whether you are the right candidate for the project or not. In fact, if I remember correctly, like I had like one of my own GSoD mentees, like she came from another open source program itself, and she contributed in a quite a meaningful manner. And even before the whole Google season of docs was announced, we were pretty much fixated that we are going to push forward with this entire candidate's profile itself. So make sure that you're making some meaningful contributions through the window of code itself, and this would obviously give you a head start for GSoC as well. I have also shared this PPT on the YouTube chat, so you can just use that. Can you actually explain the potential blockers in the proposal in more details? Potential blockers simply mean that there might be some technical details that might be just going against your project. I guess I mentioned about this whole like example where one of the mentees who was going to work with our organization wanted to work with Vue 3, but our entire project was based upon Vue 2. So this was a technical blocker because until and unless we migrate the whole code base to Vue 3, we simply cannot get started with the whole thing. So in that case, we had to mitigate the potential blockers. So we had to start working upon migrating the code base and making sure that the candidate has all the necessary means so that they can start putting up some meaningful contribution. I can also personally explain my own case. Like I was working with Metacall, and over there we developed a project that is called as Polyglot REPL. Now, Polyglot REPL was not a part of my proposal at all. It was an additional project, but it was made simply because there was this initial blocker about state persistence not happening with Metacall's library. So we knew that there is this particular issue and we wanted to mitigate that. And that's the reason we started working upon a second project. But I guess like explaining about these experiences will just simply go beyond the scope of this entire session. So if you want some more details, you can just personally DM me on LinkedIn or Twitter, and I would be happy to help you out with that. So if you opt for a project based on a field or language we don't know much about currently, but want to learn and work, how should we set our milestones then? So if you're picking up a field or a language that you don't know much about, but you want to learn and work, that's a pretty bad combination in my experience, because you are going to spend a lot of time in just learning up some basic things. It might make sense to me that, let's say you want to work up on a React-based project, but you have never worked with React. But if you have ample amount of experience with JavaScript, or maybe with some JavaScript framework like Angular or Vue, then I don't think you will have a lot of difficulties getting started with React as well. But if you don't understand the field or the language either, it is going to be super hard for you. And I would definitely suggest you to consider and try to mitigate this whole case. Pick up something that you at least have a domain experience in, because in that way you can make some meaningful contributions. I hope that helps. So I guess the moderators, like there is a question for you. Can we participate in a team? So maybe Nikhil, you can help out with this.
Yeah. Can we contribute in a team? No, you cannot contribute in a team. The thing is, we have sent over an RSVP mail folio. It's a technicality from Devfolio's end that you will need to make a one-member team. It's just that you will be registered as a team, but you are a single member. So you are still contributing as a solo contributor. You are not contributing in a team format, right? So just make sure that when you RSVP, you make a one-member team with your own full name with which you've registered for Winter of Code, right? So make sure that you do this, because if you reach the end of the Winter of Code without RSVPing, it's no use, right? So you would not be, even if you make it in the top 30, you will not be eligible for swag kits and all the good stuff that comes with participating in Winter of Code. So make sure that you RSVP, right?
I guess that was pretty much all of the questions, because the other questions were pretty repetitive about whatever things I've already mentioned before. So maybe we can bring an end to this session.
Thanks a lot, Harsh, for taking out your valuable time and giving us insights into what makes a good proposal. And the links you've shared are like gold mines for any contributor willing to go for an open source event. Make sure, audience, that you check those links out in the chat box, in the YouTube chat box. We've dropped them. Make sure that you go through them and draft a proposal that increases your chances of getting drafted into a project. It's a wonderful experience getting to talk with Bardhan Mishra, who himself has been a contributor and is now a mentor. So kudos to him for taking out his time and coming out. Thanks a lot,
Yep.
Harsh.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Yeah. Have a great day, Harsh. Have a great day, audience. Thanks for coming out in numbers. Thanks a lot for giving us your evening. Have a good day ahead.